Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Yitz Epstein. I'm a narcissistic abuse life coach, and today I'll be discussing narcissism and intergenerational trauma. Trauma is rarely experienced as a one-generational incident. Usually it's passed down from parent to child. Whether it's shame, guilt, the inner critic, relationship patterns, and toxic beliefs, these are handed off from parent to child like a handoff to a running back. It's important to understand this because otherwise we're unaware of the origins of a lot of our pain. Even if we are aware that our lineage has trauma that is being passed down, oftentimes there's great fear in facing our past, our parents, our lineage, our culture, our race, our religion, etc. Now, those who come from a strong, powerful, and influential lineage and background are going to find it much more difficult to face the damage and correct it. Many people take great pride in their lineage, in their ancestors, and therefore will often defend against, make excuses, and avoid dealing with intergenerational trauma. In an attempt to escape accountability for this pain, it's stuffed down in the subconscious, and ultimately what's in the subconscious gets passed down to the next generation. On one's healing journey from abuse, inevitably a person's going to have to face their past, their parents, and their lineage. In what might have been a source of great pride up until now, oftentimes there's great anger, rage, shame, and disappointment when a person decides to finally face the truth of their ancestors. For those who have been sort of narcissistically supplied, perhaps their ego gets a boost from their past lineage, this creates a very specific issue where the individual will have a ego crumbling experience when they do finally face the music of the truth of their past. For some, specifically those who are deeply religious, there may be even laws against facing parents, one's history, and familial damage. The great secrecy, denial, and shame of keeping these familial secrets is really at the core of the narcissistic personality disorder. Fear of self-reflecting, self-correcting, and facing one's shadows will create a sort of projection process where the individual will deny these elements and then project them onto the outside world with a deep desire and motivation to hurt others in the way that they were hurt themselves. I believe the current present-day narcissism can be summed up as follows. The baby boomers, so the last generation, were looking to make up what their parents did not give them. It was a worn, torn world, and therefore aimed to give their children everything they've ever wanted. What ended up happening is they raised the millennial generation, which is a generation who were largely given all of the things they've ever wanted. This is typical of parents to try to give the next generation what they never had. The specific issue that happened here is that they end up spoiling and in a sense smothering the millennials' ability to grow up and be adults. They ended up spoiling them and really were terrified of any harsh disciplinary actions towards their children. What got created was an entire generation who felt entitled to success without working, extremely emotionally immature, and fragile. These are symptoms of what happens when a parent will enable their child without truly disciplining them for fear of hurting them. I want to make it abundantly clear that this is not to call out any millennial for being entitled or to the baby boomers who really everyone did the best that they could with what they had. This is an attempt to explain the overall attitudes of this generation and the narcissism that is occurring. What you see today are a ton of men children who are refusing to grow up, own their own stuff, take accountability for their life, and ultimately become independently successful. And then you have parents who are extremely disappointed. They felt like they gave their children everything they ever needed, and then ultimately to be slapped in the face, they're profoundly disappointed in what they see in their children. So this clash between parents and children is a major proponent of the breakdowns and clashes that are occurring on the planet today. Parents are disappointed in their children who seem ungrateful. They haven't really followed the life path for them. Parents feel that their children should get a steady job, have a family, and ultimately raise their grandkids. Children are seen as rebellious, trying to do their own thing, when in fact the child feels smothered, controlled, manipulated, and as if their own desires and will doesn't matter. The present generation feel extremely misunderstood, as if their desires and their will is not taken seriously, and they feel like they have to rebel against their parents in order to have any freedom. They feel misunderstood, as they feel the need to either choose between their own desires, their own will, their own dreams, and disappointing parents, or sacrificing their own needs, wants, and dreams for the parents' will. Because there's such a lack of understanding from both parties, the clashes are getting stronger, and the disrespect between the two is growing. Now, both parties have every reason to feel the way they do. The issue, however, is not necessarily what it seems. The true issue is that intergenerational wounds have been going on since the beginning of time. But now there's a unique opportunity with the awareness that people have of trauma and how it affects individuals to stop what everyone's doing and actually stop this intergenerational cycle of abuse. And I believe the coronavirus really is a time to pause and stop what we're doing and realizing that we really are on a path of handing off wounds to the next generation. In order to break that up, we need to stop and actually see the core problem that's going on here. Both children and parents have an obligation to heal. The parents need to understand that they are actually wounding their children, even though they don't realize it, and ultimately they were wounded themselves. Children need to grow up, realize that they are in fact being wounded, and there's no shame in facing these wounds. And in fact, it's very admirable and courageous to face your lineage and realize that unless you do so, you are going to be passing it on to the next generation. For many parents who are extremely narcissistic, their children actually might need to walk away and go no contact. Now, if you decided that you cannot get respect or set a boundary or protect yourself from a parent who is narcissistic and ultimately heal, then in fact that might be what is necessary. Now, because the hurter cannot be the healer, the child may not be able to heal by approaching the parent, having these conversations, which is why in the therapy that I offer, there's role play and there's the ability to have these conversations, these truth dialogues, so you can get the negative emotions out, so you can process them, so ultimately you can shift your mindset and your mental well-being into health. And if this is something you are struggling with, if you are a parent and you feel like you've lost your children, you cannot reach them, please understand that your wounds, which you may not be aware of, have been passed on most usually, and therefore there's healing for you to do. And if you're a child and you feel like you're misunderstood by parents, there's usually wounds that you need to heal as well. And I believe by parents taking responsibility for the wounds that they handed off, and by children not taking it personally that they have been wounded, but rather face these wounds and stop pawning them off to the next generation, I believe there could be a culture created on this planet where everyone understands that there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of trauma, and a lot of intergenerational wounds that need to be addressed and healing. And I believe eventually parents and children could communicate along these lines. So if you are struggling, if you feel wounded and would like assistance on your healing journey, please do reach out for a free 15-minute consultation. Discuss with me how I can help you heal your wounds, your intergenerational traumatic wounds. I'm going to leave my contact information below. Please take advantage of that. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already for updates on content that I post. Feel free to like and share this video with anyone who might benefit. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Until next time, all the best.